Welcome to the Miracle You, guiding you on the journey towards finding passion and purpose and how to discover, create, and live a life by your design. Whether your success has been plentiful or your missed opportunities have been overwhelming, we can help you become a more empowered, masterful person and show you how to share your gift with the world. It's time to inspire change from within with the host of the Miracle You, Vince Kramer.
Hello, imagination. I'm Vince Kramer, your host, and welcome to the Miracle You, where you learn about the magic of living your life by finding the example in real life. In many ways, we have a tendency to believe or subconsciously feel that we have to be or act a certain way to be accepted by different people or different groups of people. We have a tendency to show up how we feel they expect us to show up, to look or act the way that they expect us to, or in many cases, for our closest relationships, want us to show up. Unfortunately, when we put those masks on, we're actually covering up who we are. We're hiding ourselves from the real world. And sometimes we hide ourselves from ourselves. We're not sure who we are. We're not sure what we believe or what we want to believe that might be different than others. We feel that if we don't act a certain way around someone, they might not like us or accept us. But it's when we find who we are at the core level, when we accept who we are at the core level and learn to love every part of us, then we can show up authentically in the world, which will allow us to open our hearts and shine our light out into the world. We'll get to a place where we feel comfortable and confident in showing up that way. And when we do, we're going to attract the people in our lives that want to be in our lives. They're like-minded, they're like-hearted. We'll attract those people into our lives that want to give us the opportunity to share all our gifts and talents. And then we will, in return, want them to share their gifts and talents with us. In finding yourself and in finding the way to live authentically, you open yourself up to so much more. I'm with Rashanna Jackson today. Rashanna is a former HR executive turned life coach, author, and speaker. She's a wife, mother, and the owner of Amazing Lifestyle, proudly sharing her message on the power of living in your authenticity. She works with men who have lost themselves while in the pursuit of success, reconnect with those most important to them. Rashanna's mission is to help people build the confidence to show up unapologetically and live in their truth so they can love themselves unconditionally and still reach their highest potential. Rashanna Jackson, are you ready to share the miracle of you with the imagination?
Yes, I am. Thank you, Vince.
I'm so excited to have you here. Rashanna's an E-Women member, so part of a very special group that is really bringing their message as entrepreneurs to the world and helping each other do the same. So it's so amazing when I get a chance to talk with somebody from the network because everybody's coming from such a big heart. So I want to thank you for being with me today. Let me ask you this, Rashanna, before we get started, the bio is pretty small. So could you give us a little bit more about what you're doing right now and why?
Absolutely. So right now I have a focus. I'm taking my HR experience that I have, and I'm really focusing with leaders, uh, specifically right now, men who really, they've focused so much on pursuing success that when they stop to catch their breath and they look back, they realize they left a lot of life behind. And I want to be able to help them recognize that they absolutely can have it all, meaning career and the life that they deserve by having balance in their life with their loved ones, with themselves, and really, really embracing the power of connectivity and self care and self love. And so I also work with leaders that are in transition who are seeking clarity on the next phase of their career, and really helping them understand what is the next best step for them so that they too can step into who it is that they were meant to be, all while celebrating the uniqueness of them and living truly in their authenticity.
Oh, thank you so much for sharing that. And it's so important. In the work that we're doing at Imagine Miracles, what we've realized is, we go up Maslow's hierarchy of needs and we get to self-actualization, and we believe it stops there, but actually it doesn't stop there. It actually kind of spreads out from there and moves up into how can we serve the world? How can we serve ourselves? How can we really bring more to the world than we're bringing, because we're so special. We've got so much available to us that we kind of cut ourselves short because of the rules of the past. What moved you into, I love the HR world, but there's more that I'm supposed to bring to the world. What was your wake-up call?
Yeah, so it's an interesting story for me. I loved what I did in HR. I loved the company that I worked for. As a matter of fact, I'd been with them for 28 years, the only company I'd worked for my life. And but as you move through life, and I'm a very faith-driven woman, and God was sending me a message. And it was at a time that I was very unclear of what the messaging was that he was sending to me. And but through fasting, through prayer, he made it very clear that my purpose in life was to serve the masses, and that I could not do that where I was, but that I really needed to step out and really truly, there was something greater beyond where I was. And so it was a journey of listening, of obedience, of guidance. It's interesting. Through my faith, I've learned that you don't always know the how, but you know that you are doing exactly what you were purposed to do and what you were meant to do, and that it will all work out in the end. And so I wanted to do what I currently did, but on a deeper level. I wanted to be able to make deeper connections without the corporate responsibility, without worrying about the conversation I was having crossing the line, because people needed me and they were asking for my support. And so, through listening to the direction God gave me, through trusting my capabilities, I said, I want to be able to be on the stage, impacting masses to really help people understand who they are meant to be, how they are living, and realize what it is that they really wanted for their lives. So it really was just mission work, and being obedient to God's direction to my life.
As I shared before we started recording for today's episode, that we are very much in alignment with what we're here to do in the world. And I think it's important what you shared, and I want the imagination to hear what you shared. You wanted to do what you were doing at a higher level or a different level that was more in alignment with who you are, because so many of us think that, oh, we have this calling, or we're going to have this purpose show up in our life and it's going to be something completely different. But the life that we're meant to live, we've truly been living it all along. And all these gifts and all these abilities that we develop along the way come into the service that we're here to do, and what we have to share. The other thing that you said that was very interesting to me was that the messages were a little unclear. What would you tell the people that are listening about how to hear the messages, or where to look for their messages?
Honestly, the messages are all around you. You just have to be open to receive. They can be subtle. I can say that the message that I was receiving, I got for it was coming at me for about 2 years. And I continued to say, nope, I'm comfortable. I'm settled in my life. I've built a great life for myself and my family. Nope, I'm going to keep moving, keep moving. And about the last, I'd say 6 months before I recognized what I needed to do, it was so loud, I could no longer ignore it. And what I mean by that is that as I explored the possibilities in my heart, in my gut, in my intuition, in my being, when I was doing my purpose work, I felt alive. I felt power. I just felt something inside of me that sometimes can be indescribable to say, this is who you are. This is where you're supposed to be. It's that inner voice that says, you are doing exactly what you're supposed to be doing. And that voice just kept talking to me and talking. I would have dreams. I would hear songs. Something would be on the radio or on the TV. And it all just connected for me. And as the vision came, I started to physically be able to see the end. I couldn't see the beginning, I couldn't see the middle, but I could see the end of where I was going to end up. I didn't know the time frame. I didn't know how long it was going to take me to get there, but the power inside of me was so strong. The energy that was coming off of me, it was undeniable. So when you know, and you will understand what is being given to you, even if you try to ignore it like I did.
Right. We talked about wake up us already, and I share through Imagine Miracles, and Mary and I talk about this a lot in the work that we do, that these wake up calls that we get aren't necessarily something drastic or traumatic.
Mm-mm. No.
Sometimes it's just the calling, knocking on the door, knocking on the
Yeah.
door, knocking on the
Yeah.
door.
Yep.
And thank goodness that they don't go away. They
Yes.
just find a way to finally get through the door, so we're willing to listen. So you get the calling, you understand it's time to move into this new way of being, this new way of sharing yourself with the world. And it's all around living in authenticity.
Yes.
First of all, what does living in authenticity mean to you?
Yeah, great question. So for me, it's about living in your truth, being comfortable, being who you are in your own skin, and not being afraid to stand tall in your uniqueness. I always say to people, you are God's greatest gift to you, and were there. He made no mistakes. So whatever it is about you and whatever you bring to the table, there's value, and never let anyone diminish that value. It doesn't matter that you look different, sound different, you have a different background, a different education. There is a reason that you are here in this moment, and you should celebrate that. And I take it back to what you said. For me, I'm a believer that nothing happens by accident, and everything that you experience is preparing you for the next. You don't know the next, but you are being positioned. And so living in your authenticity is celebrating everything that's different about you, that no one else can say, I'm just like her. And that's the uniqueness that you represent in the world.
And we are so unique. And
Yes.
even I think the tendency for a lot of us are to look at the tendency is is to look at the world and see, well, that person's doing what I like to do, or that
Mhm.
person's doing what I like to do here. But what we don't realize is it's the combination of
Yeah.
what we're good at. It's the combination of how we show up in the world that makes us unique. And there's people out there that need that combination.
Yeah.
Like I said earlier, we are very much in alignment with our divine intents in our lives, but what Rashanna has to offer is a lot different than what Vince has to offer, or maybe not even a lot different, but somebody's looking for me and somebody's looking
Yes.
for Rashanna and her special combination of gifts and talents. So why are we afraid to live authenticity?
Yeah. Well, I can speak for myself that, growing up in under the corporate structure. If you see me, you see that I'm different. I have piercings, I have tattoos, I am bold, I am brave, I'm honest. And so many phases of my career, people tried to shape who I was, how I showed up, how I dressed, what I said, what I talked about. And I found myself being lost in all of that. And I didn't know who I was anymore. And I would come home and I would be confused with my family because I'm wearing so many different faces that I started to lose life and lose interest. And so it was only when I said, this is me, accept me as I am, or don't accept me. If you are considering me for an opportunity and it does not accept me as I am, then it's not the opportunity for me. But there's so much judgment, there's so many opinions. And most of the time the intentions are good. They want to shape you into this mold or put you into this box of who it is that they want you to be, or they want to take their experiences that worked for them to say this is going to work for you. And so it has people believing that it's not okay to show up as your authentic self, that it's not okay to represent who you are because there's something wrong with you. And there's not. And, because I grew up in the company that I did, I decided not to go to college. They did not require me to have a college background, but I was a young leader. At the age of 18, I was already in leadership. And I spent so many years proving that I was worthy, that I deserved to have a seat at the table, that only until I stood in my truth, in my confidence, did I actually have that seat at the table. Was I highly sought after? Then I gained the reputation and the respect. So I say all that to say that we live in a world where people make you feel like unless you look and sound and act like them, you're not going to be able to be successful. And so that is part of the mission work that I do, is to help people understand that no, actually, you can be more successful being you, because your productivity is going to be so high because you're not focused on what you're saying and did I say it right or how I said it. Instead, you're just giving what you have to give.
The funny thing about all of it is that we have been taught, we learn, we develop a belief system from people who love us and want the best for us.
Yes.
But it's always what they feels the best for us, or what they think the right path is, or what society looks like it's the right path. And then we learn to pattern ourselves after others, and then can't find the reason why there's something missing,
Yes.
or can't find the reason why I'm not as happy as I want to be, and I've achieved everything that I set out to achieve. I was one of those people. I listened to my grandfather's rules. I listened to society. I started competing against myself and was very successful in many different places in my life, but there was always something missing, and what was missing was me.
Yes.
And that's where that living authentically comes into. So I think it's so important what you're sharing, and how you're sharing it with the world. How do people feel comfortable being authentic?
It takes time. It takes courage. It takes bravery. There's a lot of limiting beliefs in our minds, in the world. And so it takes really understanding who you are first, why you are who you are, taking the experience that you've had along the way, and really being okay with that and saying, now that I have this information, how do I first shift my beliefs about myself so that when I show up as me, then somebody has something to say. I don't just go run and hide, and now I feel even worse than I did before. So it's really that inner work that has to start with you first. And then when you have that framework, then you can start to slowly introduce yourself in phases into the world and around people that you say, here I am, until you build up enough confidence and enough, even enough reps, because it takes, it takes time. And until you get into that space where you're like, to the point that you made of something was always missing, which was you, until you get to that place to say, I found me and I want to bring me along, then you're saying it doesn't matter anymore because you love how you're feeling, the love that you have for yourself, and then the love that you're receiving from everyone else, because you can't love anybody else until you love yourself first, right? And so when you get that feeling, and it goes back to that energy, that's what's going to help drive. But until you start to work on your limiting beliefs, there's nothing that you can do that's going to let you stand tall in front of anyone.
And the thing I want to share about limiting beliefs, and I'll get your opinion on this, the, we believe there's something wrong with us because we have limiting beliefs.
Yes.
And all we did was took the information that came into us, either what we saw, what we felt, what we heard. We took that information and we developed something to help us live our lives, to be loved, to be cared for, to be safe, to be accepted by those around us, and not realizing, first of all, that it was just our way of living life, and they worked for us at one time. But now they're not working for us. And somebody forgot to tell us that beliefs aren't real.
Yes.
That we can go in and we can change them in so many different ways to change beliefs. So what doesn't work for one might work for another, whatever, but there's so many different ways to change beliefs. Have you found that, first of all, that that's true, that people don't know that they can change their beliefs? And then have you found that people are, that they want to hold on to beliefs because it's kind of a definition of who they are?
Absolutely. There's a paradigm that I'm thinking of, and it says, and I'm just paraphrasing it, but every action has a positive intent. And it's almost like the protection mechanism to say that I did this because of keeping you safe, right? And so when people don't realize what they're preventing them or keeping themselves from having because of, this is what I've always known to be true, even if it's not true. You think about, the stories that you hear as kids about the Easter Bunny, the Tooth Fairy. You believe that to be true until one day you find out it's not true. And so it's about new experiences and just new possibilities in your life to say, okay, so maybe this is what I've believed up until this point. However, that doesn't have to define who I am going forward. And it takes work because your brain, it wants to protect you. And so when you start to feel that self-doubt, when you start to feel that uncertainty, that is your brain's positive intention for you, that it just wants to protect you. It doesn't want you to be afraid. It doesn't want you to get hurt. So why don't we stay in this very safe place that we are, believing what we believe? Because this has worked for us to this point. And it takes time and it takes patience and it takes grace for yourself to say, time will come where I will no longer believe this about myself. And then you can move on. And if you don't mind, I can even share a quick story.
Please.
And it's about my physical ability. I'm a former smoker, extremely overweight, and I decided to go on a weight loss journey many years ago. And through that journey, I was around people who they were runners. My belief, I'm a former smoker, I'm morbidly obese. No way I will ever be a runner. Not meant for me, right? And I believed that about myself. And so I said, but I can walk. So for a year, I just went out and walked because that's all I could do. Until one day I said, I feel like I can go faster. And so I just started a slow little jog. And within 6 months, kid you not, I was running over 6+ miles every morning just because I wanted to. But it was all in that mindset shift of me looking at those runners thinking, I could never do that. And then one day deciding, well, actually, yes, I can. It doesn't matter that I used to smoke. It doesn't matter how much I weigh. I made it work for me. And to this day, while I can't do the 6.5 miles anymore, I'm trying to build back up to that. I still love to run, even at the fluctuations of my size, because now I believe that I can. So it just takes time, and it just takes continuous repetition to show that you can overcome anything.
Wow. It just popped into my head here, so I want to share it, and I want you to reflect on it. It's kind of hard to live authentically if we really don't know who we are. So how do we uncover that? Or what we're
Mm,
capable of, like you just shared. I mean, that's where that question came from. You
yeah.
just shared who you are authentically, and you didn't even know that you had that capability.
Yeah, it's that's a great question. And I really believe somebody asked me if do you believe that you can do anything that you set your mind to? And I said, yeah. If I want to be a pilot, I can be a pilot. It might take me a little longer than somebody else, but if I really put in the work, if I did what I need to do and followed the path in order to get there, if I wanted to, one day I could be a pilot. And so a lot of times we don't know what we don't know. And the great part of evolution and the great part of growth is that you're in continuous discovery. You're constantly learning, you're constantly exploring. And if you are open to that exploration, that is where you really find out who you really are. Because who you are today and who you aspire to be tomorrow, that's step one. But when you get to that person tomorrow, there's still something inside of you, and you're learning and you're growing and you're connecting. And it's about not being afraid to be open to whatever possibilities are out there and accepting the fact that you are not defined by your past. It doesn't matter who you used to be. Who do you decide today that you want to be? If you want to be, my mom has purple and pink hair. She decided she didn't want to be silver. So she dyed it purple and pink. That's her living in her authenticity, right? If you decide that I want to have purple and pink hair, then you make that decision for yourself and you do what you need to do to make it happen. And then you show up unapologetically to say, this is me with my purple and pink hair. Either you like it or you don't, because we all know we're not made for everybody. There's going to be people in the world that we're just not meant to connect with. And that's okay. But just like you said earlier, somebody is out there for you. Somebody needs you, and you have to be able to say, here I am for you, because here I am for me.
This is going to seem like a funny question after you just delivered such a great a great set of information for everyone to deal with here. But because we're getting close to the end of time, is there any parting piece of guidance, something that you want to make sure everybody takes away from this?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's important to remember that boundaries are not meant for everybody else. Boundaries are meant for you. And that's where living in your authenticity really starts. When you set boundaries in your life, these are things that you will or will not allow to come at you or around you. And as you build those boundaries, that's where you start to say, this is me. Okay. This is what I will accept. This is what I like. This is who I want around me. This is what I want to live for. or this is what I want to represent me. And as you set those boundaries, that's also the beginning steps to connecting with you, because now you're saying yes, no, yes, no. And you're saying yes, no, based on what works for you, based on who you are. And as you do that, and then you start to show up in social or professional or whatever environment, you are showing up in your authenticity with your boundaries around you. So just remember, boundaries are to be set for you and not for other people. And that is the very beginning stages of living in your authenticity.
Oh, Rashanna, that with boundaries is a whole podcast discussion. And unfortunately, we're at our end of time. Could you share with the imagination how they can learn more about you and get in touch with you?
Absolutely. So please visit my website, www.rawamazinglifestyle.com. And I offer a free complimentary discovery session to anyone interested in connecting with me, finding out more about my practice and what I do. And it's a great way to get to know me as well by visiting my website. So www.rawamazinglifestyle.com.
All that information for Rashanna will be available. Just go to themiracleyou.com, look for Rashanna's episode, and you'll have that information available. Rashanna, thank you so much for being with us today. Unfortunately, you told me there was no Easter Bunny, so I don't know what I'm going to do for the rest of the day. But the information that you're bringing to the world is so important. And thank you for showing up in your authenticity.
Thank you. And thank you for having me today. It's been an honor to be here with you.
You're so welcome. On behalf of my wife and business partner, Mary, the entire team here at Imagine Miracles, we want to wish each and every one of you a miracle day.
You've completed this episode of The Miracle You, but we have plenty more to help you discover your own personal passion and purpose. Head over to themiracleyou.com for free resources to assist you on your journey, as well as register for our free webinar, Discover Your Miracle Life, 3 Mind Awakening Steps Toward Your Unique Purpose, or apply for a one-on-one Your Life, Your Way breakthrough session and discover your next best step on your journey. All available exclusively on our website. That's themiracleyou.com. We look forward to sharing more experiences of passion, purpose, and life by design next time, right here on The Miracle You.